Welcome to The View from the Summit, conversations with the world's top trainers, handlers, and athletes in the equestrian and canine sports. Brought to you by Summit Animal Health. Welcome, everybody, to View from the Summit. We have a wonderful program show for you today. My name is Steve Searcy, and I get to be one of your co-hosts. And it is my honor, as always, to introduce my co-host, Robin Benson. She is an equestrian, been an equestrian all her life, from eventing to English to barrels to roping to, and even today, magically, she comes to us from a rodeo in progress. Welcome, Robin.
Thanks, Steve. So great to be here. I love getting to visit from everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm just this always so fun to get to visit with you and our guest Emily. I can't wait to hear all about your Newfoundland pony. So Steve, what are we going to start with?
Well, here's the deal. I met Emily probably maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. I'm not sure. And she told me an extraordinary story, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily Ahu of the Newfoundland Pony Conservancy Center, or just the Newfoundland Pony Center. And I want her to share her incredible story with you, because this is something, as someone who loves horses and is involved with them, I had no idea about this incredible and rather urgent thing that she's doing. Emily?
Yes.
Welcome.
So born in, I'm just kidding. You know what I'm honored to be here, and this is great, and I'm really happy to meet you, and this is great. I'm happy. Thank you for having me here. And so yeah, it's quite the story, and it's one that I kind of stepped into accidentally. I decided to get a companion for my Clydesdale cross after my daughter decided to get out of showing, and we found a horse at home. I needed a companion, so I saw this Newfoundland pony, a little filly, and it was 10 months old. And I thought, I'll just get a pony for Bob. You know, I won't have to train a lot. I won't have to do a lot. Just a pony and be a good companion. Boy, was I wrong. I didn't know what I was buying. And so I got the first one, and she was a crossbred, and she was so different. Her mind was so different. She didn't spook. She thought. There was this connection like immediately, and she had this brain I couldn't believe. Well, then her sister came up for sale and here in the United States. And so, hey, what the heck? I got her sister, who's full-blooded and registered. And then their mother came up for sale. So why not get her too? And then I thought, someone told me they were rare. And I said, okay, they're rare. Okay, there's a lot of rare things out there. And I got a call from a woman out in Michigan who was the very first and only breeder of Newfoundland ponies in the United States. And she told me what I had. And after I got off the phone with her, I said to my husband, I was told we have to breed. And I'm like, breed? I never even bred a guppy. Okay. So we're going to be breeding ponies. I mean, and it just went from there. And it grew and it grew, and more ponies found us. And, you know, there were at that time 36 in the United States and about 350 of them left in the world. And they kept finding us. And most of what we took in was in the United States, not being used for breeding or being used for crossbreeding or just being passed from kid to kid as a pet. So what's so special about them? Well, they're critically endangered. Their numbers have come up, allergies. And there are about 500, some think maybe 600 in the world, and there are about 50 in the United States. So why save this cute little pony? Well, cool thing about this pony is it's still a land race, and a land race is a native species. And so it lived on the island of Newfoundland, where they brought over 400 years period. They brought over animals from the British Isles to settle the land. And they work side by side with people. And We call them a partner breed because that's exactly what they are. When they're born, imprinting, forget about it. Desensitizing them, don't need to. They're immediately attached to people. And I think a lot of it was maybe the culmination of how they lived on the island working with people. But people there say that if it wasn't for the Newfoundland Pony, they would have starved or frozen to death. And so all these breeds they brought over, they didn't fence them in. They fenced them out of the gardens. And there's a lot of outports and there's a lot of dense forests in the middle. So they all lived around this gigantic island, which is the size of New England. And they interbred and they created their own breed. And Mother Nature sure knows what she's doing, because if they couldn't hack it, they didn't survive. And they haven't been mucked with. We haven't bred them for any one purpose. We haven't decided we want them to have long feathers. And the show world, they could do anything. Okay, so but they've been left alone. So they are, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, they're a snapshot of the way that horses used to be before we started weeding out and breeding for certain traits and losing others, throwing out good genetics. They have no genetic disorders whatsoever. They're crazy.
You told me once that because they were raised on the island, they could even drink brackish water. And they were just totally adaptable to virtually any environment.
They had to, because they wouldn't have survived. It's the ones that adapted that were able to survive. And yes, and they kelp. There's been reports of them eating kelp, which I wonder what they got for nutrients out there, because the island is a rock. The hay out there is not really hay. It's really a rough place to live. So they found what they needed. They belonged to people. They weren't technically wild, but they roamed free in herds. They interbred and they took care of themselves. And when they went out they would work the ponies, and then they would go out fishing, and the ponies would be loose and left, and they'd come back and pick up right where they were. So you show this animal how to do something once, you don't have to teach them that again. I can't believe that I'm even saying that. That's how they are. They remember. There is no like training. And another thing with them, though, it is a problem, is that modern training techniques don't work with these guys. You will sour them immediately. We don't lunge. We don't round pen. We just work with them. Next.
Yeah, that's really cool, because coming from a horse trainer and coming from a person who does a lot with a lot of different breeds of horses, I've definitely seen the differences. Some pick it up more quickly. Some, you put them back after working with them for a day and they come back the next day and they've got it, and then some don't. And that's super interesting to hear. So how many do you have now, and what do you do with them?
Everything. So we have, I think, under our program, about 27. I want to say, I'd have to update it because we just had a few more come in. So originally we kept them all on one property. And as we grew and things changed, we never really wanted to be the owner of all of these and doing all the breeding and controlling what's going on. We are trying to mentor and teach people how to raise them, and responsible breeding is biggie. It's a really big thing with us. We're not just breeding and just selling to anybody. They go into mentored homes that will be responsible, and stewards. We're basically stewards. What do we do with them? Anything and everything. We've taken, believe this or not, we took ponies to the fireworks festival and where we used to live, which was huge, like 10,000 people attended. We took them to a fireworks festival. They don't care. They trust.
Wow.
It's crazy. But drive, ride, jump. Let's see. They're wonderful work ponies. Wonderful. They all do everything. But right now, what we kind of divided up, and we have a group down at a recovery center that isn't too far from us, and they're working with it's a male residential home, but there are other portions of this organization that also come there. There's a community program, and they work with people, and it's just mind-blowingly powerful. Now, I'm going to say this. There's a lot of really incredible horses in every breed, but when you've got 98% of a breed that's like this, it's really unique.
That's unbelievable. Wow. So how, you said they're ponies. So technically a pony is is 14.2 or under. So how tall are these on average?
They go from 11 to 14.2 hands, and they range in the 13.2 is the average size. They are very strong. I had a 13.1-ish mare, and she had done some, hauling of firewood and sleigh, and she drives and all that. And I had a telephone pole where we were, and I hitched it to her for ha-has, and she hunkered down and dragged that pole up a hill. She really wanted to do it. I'm like, whoa, it's totally shocked me. She got right down and pulled that telephone pole. They're very
That's
strong.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you have 27 plus or minus around. Do you have an area where you let them roam, or are they in smaller pastures? Or I know it's a little different than an island, but do you try and keep them in an environment where they're, more free ranging, or how do you try to replicate, their natural environment?
So yes, ours are down at the farm. They're on turnout all the time. We don't use stalls. They have access to shelter at all times, but they're loose out in the fields. But we also have to be very careful about that because they're not on the island anymore, and metabolically they are prone to getting laminitis. So we have to be really careful where they are. The crappier, the better. Like a cow pasture, they'll go into the. So we've always tried to replicate that, and I would say the majority of people that have them that way. They're just out. So can we replicate Newfoundland? Absolutely not.
You try to avoid really lush green pastures and really because the nutrients are too rich for them.
Yes. And they also, we have to watch them for because of lack of selenium, we have to watch them for vitamin E levels. So it's not that hard to manage. But we don't do things like blanket. We don't stall them if possible. We don't stall some. We have that. We have blankets for everybody, but they're like buffalo in the winter, and so we try to keep their natural state. And it's also why we don't run them in circles, and why we don't why we don't desensitize them, because they don't need it. It's natural, and they get fed up with you if you're doing stuff like that. They will shut down because they're like,
"What?"
That's interesting. They think you're crazy if you're chasing them in a circle, by the way. We had that happen on Pony. Thought everybody we couldn't get them. They couldn't catch them. We won't tell the ending to that story because it wasn't pleasant. But yeah, he just thought, what is wrong? Why are they chasing me? Yeah.
I'm trying to attack them or something. Like, leave me alone.
They're not scared. But as far as interacting with people, they're just absolutely incredible. But there's so many wonderful horses that are. But they pick up on people really easily, and they are very careful of the people around them. So if you're in a group of them and you're brushing them and they're doing like group grooming, if one of them wants to pick on another one, they'll take that pony aside and beat it up over there, not with you standing there. They will not. They won't run into you. They won't run you over. They do everything they can to avoid hurting people.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, really it is, because sometimes we have to impart that to the horses that don't it sounds like they have this naturally innate sense of respect for people, which isn't common in every breed for sure.
We call them a partner breed. They're like automatically it's when they're so the first one we had born, I got all the books. I had the halter ready to imprint within 30 minutes. She got up. Her mom was delivering the placenta. She walked right over to me like, hi. And that was it. She was already imprinted. The farrier the next day, anybody that came over, they go right up to them.
Huh.
That's amazing.
And moms are trusting.
So you say that there's maybe 600 of these ponies in the world. 500, 600. What are you doing to change that?
So the biggest thing was, so back when they started the big push when they found out that I didn't even say what happened to the ponies with the advent of machinery and tractors and all of that. They got to be a nuisance on the island, and the government forced them to be fenced. People couldn't afford to do that. And then people from the mainland got smart, and they hauled them off by tractor trailer loads, 30 to 50 at a time. They told people they were going to stables. Some people knew where they were going, and they went to the slaughterhouses, and they went from, they say 7,000, 12,000 down to under 100 by the time it was 80s. So what was the question again? I lost it.
No, the question is how are you trying to impact their global numbers to save them from extinction?
Yes. Education, working very hard to maintain what they are. So it's preservation. We don't believe in, there is no need to do grading up breeding. Once you add, when you have a group of small numbers like that, and you take another breed, a modern breed that has genetic problems, and you add that into it, it's death to the breed. That has happened to a draft breed. There were 400. They added in another breed that had the same color as this breed, and they entered 3 lethal genes. 400 numbers of 400s. They're not going to come back from that. So we avoid that. We don't have to. They're very diverse. They're very healthy. And at this point, we've not got any problems. But the biggest thing for me is responsible ownership and stewardship. You've got to be responsible for where they're going in every foal. Where is it going? When they started to save the ponies back in the 80s and 90s, they started breeding, and selling ponies. And what happens to ponies? They go from kid to kid to kid, and pretty soon nobody even knew what it was. So there's still ponies floating around out there. They were used for crossbreeding, and they were used for whatever because they're wonderful ponies, but they were lost to the cause. And so we actually rounded up what was floating around the United States and got them back in the program. And education on humane treatment, education on being responsible. So and one thing is that if you need help, we're there. So we are like their umbrella. Life happens to people. You know, you see all these terrible things with rescues, and people are beating up the people that had something happen. Life happens. It's important to be there for them to be able to rehome them in the right place.
Are there enough ponies that they can be saved from extinction?
Yes, they can be. Their numbers are going up. They're going up slow, but they're going up steady. So you have to be careful because there are some rare breed groups that advocate grading up breeding. And the first thing that'll go is that temperament. That mind is what'll go.
So you talked about breeding and responsible breeding. You must have diverse genetics, but are you doing like AI stud? You know, are you finding studs from all over and doing AI breeding, or do you have enough studs in your group that you can breed with diversity? Because if it's a diverse genetic pool in the line, you know, some breeds are pretty. They have a few different lines that are very tightly bred, right? But if this is a very diverse gene pool, you know, how are you maintaining diversity? Are you bringing semen over from Newfoundland, or how do you do that?
We're bringing ponies back and forth because the best, so the as it goes, pasture breeding is 90-something% effective. And then you have in-hand breeding is 80-something% effective. And AI is 50%, maybe less. We have done AI. We actually did AI with Ammy, Steve. So, and it did not work. And we find that the live breeding is better. And they're not big, huge horses. They're relatively easy to handle. It's still not fun. But we swap around animals. A bunch of breeders are swapping around animals. So we, this year, I think we have 5 bred this year, which is huge. So every year it's been growing. There's been like 20-something born in the world. That's huge for this breed. When you compare that to 80,000 quarter horses a year and 30-something thousand thoroughbreds a year, it's nothing. You know, it's very small. But we're growing small and steady, and that's what we're doing. So we're working together. So, yeah.
Tell us about your star stud, Ammy. Tell us about that guy.
I get all choked up with Ammy. So Ammy is our poster child, and he's what got us to become open, like a sanctuary for people to come see. Can you hear the dogs? I'm very sorry about that. My husband got on the tractor, and the little dog is missing him. Oh my goodness.
It's okay. No, okay. It's okay. It's fine.
We're animal people here.
We're an animal show. If we can't have barks and whinnies, I don't know what we're going to do here.
It's like timed sound effects. We're good.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is what happened. So we got a call about a Newfoundland Pony colt. And hold on 1 second. Bear. Okay, sorry. Thank you. So I actually, when he's being mischievous, I call him a different name and it makes him stop. So if you don't mind, Doofus. It works every single time. I don't know.
I did that with my boys growing up. I think I used the same name.
Don't make me use your middle name.
Yeah, don't make me use Doofus, your middle name. That's funny.
Not funny. I hate to do it, but I mean, I could call him worse things, but he gets a little carried away. So anyways, it worked. So, and he thinks it's great. Usually comes looking for a treat or whatever. So anyways, where was I on that?
Ammy, you got a call?
You got a call from a dealer who had a pony, and it was a little buckskin stallion, and we had been offered him for sale, and he was a whole lot of money, and we didn't want stallions. I had these mares. This one we were just starting. So after the winter, we got contacted because he had slipped on ice and suffered an injury. So I asked how bad it was, and they said, well, he wouldn't win in a halter class. So we went up to see him, and I wanted to throw up. It was so horrendous what we found. He had been kicked, and because clearly on the x-ray you could see the horseshoe kick mark, and he had been put in with larger animals, and from what I understand, and he got kicked. So there's a few different sides of the story. The fact of the matter is that he was very thin, and his right rear femur was broken. And honestly, the veterinarian had suggested that they put him down, but because of his rear, they didn't. And so they sold him to us, and we got him out of there to take him home to put him down because it was so horrific. And our vet was on vacation, and so we waited that week, and I kept saying, "Why? I wish we could have done this sooner." Every time I looked at him, it's horrible. So she came and she said, he's young, he's 5, he's small, and that's fused. Let's see what happened. Well, he just turned 17 in July. It's amazing.
Wow.
He had a struggle. He's absolutely the epitome of never giving up and adjusting to what life gives you. And he is just an amazing creature. He's amazing. However, a few years ago, when we met Steve, he was starting to fail. And we've got one foal out of him, I want to say, and he's really rare line. He came from Newfoundland himself, and he's absolutely gorgeous and in every way. And so I was approached by this very nice woman, and she told me about Summit and said, let's try it. And well, actually, we got a donation through their program, and then we said we'd give it a try. Holy smokes, he is completely different. So it's rocky and hilly in Newfoundland, and where we live on our own little farm now. We are no longer open to the public. My husband and I, we have a life again. As fun as it was, we like living on our own. Anyways, it's hilly and it's rocky, and so he lives here with us, and it's a small area that he's in. One day I looked out, and there he was. He had climbed the rocky cliff, and he was up in the upper pasture, and I'm like, oh my dear God, I got to get him down. So I'd gone up to find him, and that's where he was. I ran to the barn. I got a lead. I turned around, and there he was. He came down by himself. It was incredible, the difference in him completely. And the leg it's not so much a hindrance. He can actually balance a little more on it. But he was pretty much 3-legged, and he just bred a beautiful mare. So I'm pretty sure that we're doing an ultrasound on the 19th. So,
wow.
Yep. And I got to tell you, he was a handful to breed because before we would take like 4 of us to get on each side of him when we tried when it worked before, and everybody holding everybody. And it was, very difficult. Didn't bother him any, but we had to be careful that he didn't fall. not this time. Totally.
Wow.
I can't get over it. Just can't get over it. So I think he's got quite a few years left. I'm really happy. He's gorgeous. So
So
we're waiting for this baby who's going to have the name of Summit it's somewhere in that name. And we have a couple names picked out, which I'm not going to tell you, Steve.
Oh, that's not fair. Come on.
I have goosebumps over here. That's just an incredible story. With, for anybody, even if it's not a rare breed pony, a person who has a horse, and if you're a horse or a dog person listening, you've had an animal that had a critical injury, most likely, or you knew somebody where it just broke your heart to see the animal in that condition, and you wish there was something you could do. So what an amazing option, right? It didn't impact his fertility. It didn't hinder his healing, and it's provided him some long-term, not only life, but ability to do what he's made to do, which is, man, I've got kind of speechless and lots of goosebumps over here. So, wow, what a wonderful story ending to what could have been really tragic and he's straight, like, pure genetics from Newfoundland, right?
They all are. They all continue. Everything.
Right, but
trace back to Newfoundland.
But like an infusion of fresh Newfoundland genetics from the ones you've been breeding in the US,
Yeah, and actually a lot of them came from Canada that came in here. So we're at that generation now, but that will be changing.
That's unreal.
And when Ammy was up there on the cliff, I got a picture of it, and man, it's really exciting, and I encourage anybody that is the least bit interested to go on YouTube and learn about these incredible ponies. And Emily, what's your website? I want to make sure that people know about your website and know what they can do to help you, because this is something, if you love horses, that please get behind. Please share, and I'll make the pitch. Please share $1 or $2 with them, because it costs for education. It costs to these horses around, and so if you can help, by golly, do it, because this is a worthwhile breed completely. So Emily, take over from there and tell them how they can help you.
Yes, it's go to Newfoundland Ponies, PONIES.org, and that's us. So yeah. I just want to say this, that we are all volunteer. Every one of us is a volunteer, and that we never sell ponies. They go out on a foster situation or a lease situation, and then the foals that those ponies have become the person who's fostering that horse. We don't sell anything. So we don't get any income from that. And we don't. So we managed to do that. It's not easy. We have a lot of dedicated people, really wonderful people involved with us. So
incredible.
Yep.
I was just wondering, how has being involved with these ponies like this changed you?
First thing is, I met my husband. I did over a pony, and it has changed it. So I like to say the ponies have taken us down a path, and we follow them, and all the people that own them seem to have this magical thing happen to them by working with these ponies. It has totally changed my life. So never mind the guppies. We're breeding horses here. We're breeding ponies, and it's just, and the people involved. And now, like, working with the recovery center, I'm doing equine assisted life skills there. I do a lot of volunteering there. And that in itself, the life stories and the interaction, I walk out of that ring and I see what's happened every day. It just reminds you how incredible life is and how important animals are in our life. And then we have to stop just thinking about humans. We need to think about our earth and our animals, because we need them. The earth and animals will do just fine without us, but it's not the other way around. Yeah.
Well, Emily, you're blazing a trail of Conservancy and environmental protection and sustaining the genes of an incredible equestrian horse. Amazing. You are amazing. So everybody, once more, what's your website?
NewfoundlandPonies.org.
Robin, what you got to say?
Wow, I'm still processing. It's just pulling on my heartstrings. I have a daughter who's riding ponies. She trains ponies and sells them. And I'm thinking, what if a person wants to foster? Obviously, your website is the best place to get in touch with you. And you have a YouTube channel. But and I know we need to wrap this up, but quickly tell people how they become qualified to foster a pony and what that involves. I know you mentioned they breed them with some guidance from you, and then they keep the foal once they're bred, but just quickly share about how a person would become a foster home for a pony.
Basically, they can go to our website and there's a section on there about fostering, but also just reach out to us. Just info@newfoundlandpony.org. We're also newfoundlandpony.org, by the way, but it gets confused with the Newfoundland Pony Society, so I do the ponies, make it simpler. But to contact us that way, and we'll start talking to them and see what we've got. We're connected with other pony owners. There are 3 breeders in the United States now. 3, that's it. But everybody's small. So we're connected that way, and we'll see what we can find and get them started. So that's what we do.
Awesome. So do you have social media channels where people can follow kind of fun updates? What are those?
So that is Newfoundland Pony Sanctuary on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, but that's not really, I just kind of connect that one. They're just connected to the other page. So you can find us on there too. And it's the same thing, Newfoundland Pony Sanctuary. So. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure and include all of the links to find you in the show notes. Yeah. If people are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, we'll make sure that, all of these links are available, because you're definitely going to want to come check out more about the Newfoundland Pony Society and the sanctuary and the center and everything you're doing. It just is amazing to fill your heart. If you don't have a full heart and your heartstrings haven't been pulled today, I need to take your pulse, because Emily, this is pretty incredible. Your story, the impact you are making is one that most people only dream of, not only for the ponies, but helping with the center and helping with connecting people. Connection is one of the basic human just needs, right? And you're filling that not only through the ponies, but other ways. So bless you, and thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your heart, sharing these amazing ponies, the wonderful legacy you're carrying on. And again, if anybody has questions for Emily or want to find out more, we will include the links to her website and social media channels and email. And if you have questions or anybody else that you would like to see on the show, steve@eternalpure.com, and email him and you can share your thoughts there. But other than that, Steve, man, mind blown, heart full. Thank you, Emily. This has been amazing.
She needs a pony. You really do. I'm that. Yeah.
We have a zoo at our house. You should really see. I'm looking at the pony you have standing behind you. And the pony my daughter's riding today is a paint that looks a lot like the one standing behind you. He's a little brown and white paint. He's just turned 3 and she's trained him herself, but she's pretty handy. So I'm just thinking, she connects with them. We have a friend of ours that does a lot of therapy working with horses, and she connects with the horses and can talk to them on their level. And my daughter, she just turned 9, but she's kind of that way. She connects with her horses in a way that is kind of crazy. So my wheels are turning. My husband is probably going to think I'm nuts. We run a working cattle ranch. We have a working cattle ranch. And so we have a lot of livestock, and these ponies are probably like, what?
There's a ranch in Alberta that's a working cattle ranch, and they have ponies. They're really good cow ponies. They really are.
Emily, the seed has been planted.
And we have lots of rocks, like our goats go up on the rocks. So the ponies might go on the rocks too.
And this is what happens. They get into your heart and then they take your life. I have to say, rare breeds are not for everyone. They're not for everyone. You have the restrictions and you have the heartaches and all of that. And it is a bit of a burden. So it's not the easiest thing, but anything you can do to help is appreciated. So that's great. Yeah. So I think people just experiencing this breed. We've had more people walk up to us that said they were afraid of horses and said, but I feel like I want to pet your pony. And it's powerful.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, Emily, you're powerful. Robin, you're powerful. And so is all of our audience. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope you were inspired by Emily and her quest to save these ponies. And with that, I'll say we'll see you, Robin and I will, next week on A View from the Summit.
Thanks for joining us for A View from the Summit. This program is made possible by Summit Animal Health. Check them out online at summitanimals.com. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next week for another View from the Summit.